Hello and welcome to this week's True Potential Do More With Your Money podcast. My name is Peter Bold and this is our weekly look at all the issues that are moving markets and of course your money. Joined today by David Harrison, True Potential's chairman, Mark Henderson, senior partner at True Potential, and he enjoyed his debut on the podcast so much last week. He's back for more. It's Jamie Sexton, whose grand title is Head of Central Advice.
Yes.
But nobody knows what it means, apart from Jamie. Today we're going to talk about something which is an incredibly rare event. It only happens generally once a year, comes with a huge amount of anticipation. Now I'm not talking about Mark's annual round at the bar, although that does come with a huge amount of anticipation. It is of course the budget which takes place
Peter's
on...
joke, which has still got to come.
There's plenty more where that came from, don't worry.
No.
Now it is of course the budget which happens on Wednesday next week, the 11th. And we're going to talk today about the sorts of things that you might be seeing in next week's budget and how that could affect your money. But before we get into it, gents, what have we heard on the grapevine? What could be coming up?
I think it's been well trailered that Entrepreneurs Relief looks as though it could be going, which I think is a non-event. I've set up a couple of businesses myself. You don't set up a business, you don't grow a business on the hope that if you ever sell a bit of your business, you'll get Entrepreneurs Relief. Unless, right at the point in time you're thinking of selling, your tax people come in and say, you only paid 10% in the first 10 million. You go, okay. Yeah. So I'm personally not bothered because that's a long time ago.
And coming from an entrepreneur, though, that's an interesting perspective.
Well, yeah, but I mean, it's not the reason people set businesses up.
Yeah.
And once again, it's another one of these government things where they don't actually understand entrepreneurs. As an entrepreneur, if somebody shouted at me, I would say, well, how much money? How much are you, that must be worth some money to me, you shouting at me. I think that will go. But if you sell your business for £20 million, for example, well, there you go, it's cost you an extra
million. I think, David, it was introduced by Gordon Brown.
Quite a good Labour Chancellor, I have to say, for a Labour Chancellor, but not somebody that you would follow around even out of
And the argument
curiosity.
was at the time that, or the argument against rather, is that it doesn't encourage anybody to start up a business because you only get it later stage when you sell that business.
It's just a pure giveaway.
Yeah.
Look, people are going to start a business, they're going to start a business and grow a business whether they get tax breaks or not. Right? There was a silly argument in the media the other day about, that'll put somebody off coming to Britain to start. Do you honestly think somebody's going to come to Britain is going to worry about £1 million of a tax break if they're successful at some point in the future? The answer would be no. Of course, they come to Britain, they're a corporation, so it's a very different tax situation for them. No, it doesn't. It won't make any difference, but it'll save them, I think, about £3 billion.
It raises about £3 billion.
£3 billion.
So on that argument then, which again, sort of the argument put forward is these are tax reliefs that benefit the very, very wealthiest, who are largely
it benefits,
in the south.
I'll tell you who it benefits, okay, especially if you were Gordon Brown listening to all the nitwits around him at that time, and Chancellor's nitwits from London right now, who start off a little website which is no use to anybody, right, somewhere near Islington or somewhere in that part of London where it's cool, and they sell it. It's just like, isn't it, this stuff. You say, I've got a great business, it's my child, I love it, I'm going to really tender it and nurture it because it's the best business since, and then, so it's a child for them. And they're really passionate about the business, then they sell it. They sell their child 4 years in, 5 years in, for some fool who buys it and calls it robo-advice or something. They then go away and sit on committees and tell people about how to be an entrepreneur. It's a complete load of rubbish, right? So for me, it's not something that I would, it doesn't bother me because...
It doesn't sound like you'll miss it too much.
Well, I wouldn't miss it at all because I've already claimed it. I've already got it, so it's in my back pocket.
Mark, what have you heard that you won't miss, or maybe you will miss?
Well, Peter, you get the same headlines coming out year after year. What have we got? Mansion tax, pension tax relief, national insurance, the inheritance tax changes. Let's just see what's actually delivered next week. But it is the same old thing being trotted out each year. A couple of firsts, of course, the Chancellor's first budget, and the first budget that we've had in the UK for many years as a non-EU state. So let's see if anything comes out as a result of that.
It will be interesting, Mark. It's this government's first budget. They didn't do the one in November that was scheduled, and budgets are always sort of famous for having a few surprises, and then probably the biggest surprise is the guy presenting it, because I doubt he would have thought he'd be doing that a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, biggest surprise, Peter, since 2015 when we had pension freedoms.
Pension freedom is, of course, a big moment. I think if we all had £1 for the amount of times we've heard that pension tax relief was getting overhauled, we'd probably have, well, about a tenner.
If you put in your pension, Peter, you'd have a
that's
big,
right.
Yeah,
a lot
big
more,
pension.
A lot more. But Jamie, are you getting any, from your point of view, with advisors and then their clients? Are you hearing anything from that side?
Yeah, it's obviously the pension tax relief is something that's talked about quite a lot, Peter. Quite a lot in the advice community at the minute is the sort of taper relief annual allowance, whether that's going to change or not, and whether that will come into play. We're not sure. I think it is just as Mark says. Let's wait and see.
Wait and see. Well, look, let's
I
talk.
think it was interesting with that, Peter.
Go ahead.
All of a sudden, people became interested in those areas of tax, not because of the effect it has on self-employed people and others, but because of the effect it had on NHS doctors
Exactly.
with their gilt-edged pensions. So they may have some use after all. I mean, two uses: they might stop people dying from a virus, and the other thing, they might bring about some changes to some simplification on pensions. Pensions for too long have just been a political football, and that's what puts people off. They don't understand. All of this talk about this puts people off saving. It puts people off. If ever we needed people to save, it's now. So signalling to them that it's difficult, it's not transparent, it's not easy to work out, and also signalling to doctors that if you go back to work and work hard, there's a penalty on you. Is silly. But it isn't just doctors, it's everybody. So, we need the same, I hate to say this, level playing field for everybody. I hadn't realised we were on a playing field, especially not a level one. If you're from Berkeley, you've never seen a level playing field, have you? They're normally like out the side of a pit heap or something.
It's always uphill.
Uphill.
David, you're right. It's a simplification of financial products that would be a big, big benefit for everybody.
I think the products are simple. I mean, there's only about 3 or 4 products.
Pensions are complicated compared to an ISA.
Inside there, that's it. So an ISA is the perfect product.
Yeah.
And, you always get this sort of so-called experts, so at least we can, say we're not experts on anything. But every year you get the same people trotted out. It's normally accountancy firms. And they seem to, I think this is sort of like there's something very nerdy and very horrible about the whole thing. Like, this is what's going to happen. Then minutes after, you get people writing things down and going, this is what's happened. You think, well, why don't you just send us the stuff, you fool, and I'll just work it out for myself. Because most of it won't hit us. The thing that hit us the biggest in the last few years has been pensions freedom. So the minute that happened, there's been an absolute deluge of regulators and other people, mainly sort of public sector types, who have fought against that pensions freedom, which has revolutionised the lives of hundreds of thousands of people. The difference it's made to people, not one of which, to my knowledge, I would have found out, has got a Lamborghini or anything else, as a result of, on average, a £200,000 to £300,000 lump of money, which hasn't gone in their pockets, which has actually just gone into another pension over which they've got total control, as opposed to in a pension where they've got a control by a civil servant or by a company secretary or by somebody who's put them into bankruptcy and sticks them into a government-controlled pension. So the pension freedom was a big shock and a big change to Britain. I'm not certain Rishi, I have no idea what he's got up his sleeve at all. And but the stuff I've talked about there, it's been in the papers, so it must be probably untrue if it's in the papers.
I don't know about you, gents, but I've always found in the budget, you watch it on the news, on the telly, and then you go to the BBC website or whoever, and it says, click on these few things, and it'll tell you how much better off or worse off you are. And you're about 27 pence better off, if you're better off at all. And you just think, what was all that about?
Jobs, anything, Peter, we were having a little chat before about what we're going to say in front of the cameras. I just wish the cameras had been on, or the camera, It's just like a little camera as well. It's not like a proper professional camera. But we do have professional director and assistants.
You're making it sound so rehearsed and so professional, David.
Well, people can tell it.
Yeah, no one's fooled by that.
The 20 people that watches, you know, our family and other people we make watch, like grandchildren you've got to watch, they know it's not rehearsed.
Is that what happens at your house on a Sunday? It's like the kids telly go off and the
no idea
podcast
what happens
comes
in
on.
my house on a Sunday. I try my best to sleep, but there's mayhem goes on.
What was it your wife said about you? She saw you on last week's podcast. She had some very useful feedback for you, I thought.
Yeah, she said I was boring,
Yeah.
basically. That wasn't about the podcast, Peter, either. That was just in general, I think. So.
Well, that's fine. She knows you well. She did swear though, didn't she?
She did, I can't say that on
I'm sure, you know, that's right, you can't
She
say
did
that.
swear, yeah.
So what would the perfect budget look like from our point of view then, thinking ahead? Forget what might be in it, what might not be in it. Just if you could start with that blank bit of paper right there, what would a budget look like for you, David, that would...
It would be very short.
Yeah.
And it would have some big points in it, and that's it. It wouldn't be something that accountants the country over would try and make a fortune out of, you know, by translating it into their, simplifying it for people. It should already be simple. So, and I think that would also be in line with the direction of travel of any government outlook that would come in, which is simplification and getting rid of rafts and rafts and rafts of regulation and rafts of quangos and civil servants whose job it is to make these regulations up and impose them on British trades. So I think anything on top of that, Peter, we've already got, you know, hands full in dealing with trade talks, hopefully the world over. Key for us is something which helps us deal with the world rather than a frictionless deal with our, we've got to call them our European friends.
European friends.
Yeah.
Jamie, just thinking about pensions as well from your side, probably the best budget for you would be one that has very little to do with pensions. Just leave them alone. There's so much change every year in respect of pensions, but I'm guessing that would be what you would want to see.
I think so, Peter. From a client's perspective, little change, the better. You know, we put plans in place for a lot of these clients in terms of retirement plans, and big changes at this point could have an effect towards that. And I think David mentioned before, actual just simplicity. You know, simple of savings is really helpful, especially when you're saving for your retirement.
And what about the ISA? ISA allowance, £20,000.
I
That's
think
come a long way in the last 10 years. But
it has, Peter. It's come a very long way. I think for me, what I'd like from a budget is just to narrow it down and say, right, how can we help narrow that savings gap? And the ISA is a great product. It's simple, everybody understands it, and it works. Now, £20,000 per individual, can everybody afford that? Well, no, but let's see if we can get that level increased. The other thing that is a nonsense to me is a lifetime allowance on the pension. It just doesn't make sense. Why have that based on value?
well, just explain for people listening and watching who maybe aren't fully aware of what all that means, Mark. Tell us how it works and what the problem with it is.
Well, it puts a cap on the value of a pension. It's £55,000 over £1 million at the moment. It has gone up over recent years, but back in 2012 you could get a protection of 1.8 million of the value of your pension before you start drawing the benefits, Peter. And if it was...
Sorry, neither of those two, I'm not being cheeky, neither of those two things made sense to me. The limit now is £1 million and 55,000.
Right. Now it's decreased from 1.8 million as it was years ago, David.
And if you've got more than that,
you have to pay additional tax when you take benefits out of your pension. Now, it's not based on contributions, it's based on the value. If it was contribution based, people would know where they are with that. As it's value based, it's a nonsense. It kind of penalises people for making sensible investment choices.
what happens if you had less than that and it's grown because of good investment to above that?
That's the point, David. It is on value rather than on contributions.
So, Mark, are you saying in a good year, you may tip over the limit, you've then got to pay an additional level of tax on any contributions?
No, on benefits, Peter.
Right.
On benefits when
well,
it's
Mark,
taken.
It comes well into play when we do final salary transfers, where you're seeing large valuations of people that have saved all their lives, and on transfer they'll have a lifetime allowance, tax issue potentially. You know, something that you have to consider as part of your advice piece
Yes.
on application. So I agree. It's, you know, should there be a limit at all?
And it comes back, Jimmy, to what we were saying before about simplification.
Yeah.
Give people products that are easy to understand, and they will invest in them.
They'll also retain an advisor.
Yeah.
I think this is the thing we're finding, Peter, that I don't think products have been as simple as they are now. I think they are simpler than they've ever been. There are exceptions where, once again, with pensions, chances play around, and I don't know if it's them or what goes on in that department. But you know, it's something like that where you really don't know, and for most people, they unlike our people who each day can know exactly how much their pension is worth. A lot of people, once a year, they get a piece of paper coming through the post.
Yeah.
They'll say, well, you know, I don't know if it does say, you know, well done, you've managed to save a fair bit in your pension. I mean, £1 million is no longer a lot of money. If you're talking about somebody in London, they've got a house worth £1 million, for example, probably on average. I've no idea. But you know, you as Jamie's just said, people work hard. It's all their money. This is the thing. Same with the pension transfer, pensions freedom. It's as if it's the employer's money or the state's money. It's not. When somebody incentivizes you to save and gives you tax relief, they've given you that and you've taken it, right? You've done what you're supposed to do. It's your money. Everything in your pensions is your money, and it's up to you what you want to do with your money. And if you want to squander it, well, fine. That's a different thing altogether. But to have something that tricks you because it's grown and you've done well with it, and all of a sudden you then take money out because you're going to pay. And what rate of tax do you pay on the drawings?
55% on lump sums and 25% on income.
Yeah. So once again, oh, I'll take a lump sum. No, I'll take an income. Can you take a big income rather than a big lump sum, or a little lump sum, big? And on it goes. So you require a highly paid advisor to tell you about your own money, not because you're stupid, it's because the rules around pensions are stupid.
And get more complicated every single year.
And also made up by people who never have to go through this thing. This is when it used to drive me mad with a certain life insurance company I worked for. Those directors had final salary pensions. However, we were selling unit-linked pensions. And we were taught these are the best things since sliced bread, unless you're a director, in which case we've got something that's better than sliced bread. A final salary pension paid for by, you know, in the state of the public, you know, it's the public, taxes and national insurance, which is a form of tax. A private company, at least it's the shareholders who are paying for that. So that's up to them. They can sell the shares because people are being greedy at the top. You know, so I think simplification, one page, it's not going to be one page.
Yeah.
You know, it's going to be on several pages, and then you're going to get explanations, you know, leading to, so people like Jamie and Mark and others then have to translate that into simple language, and we'll do our best to get that across to our clients, what it means to them individually.
It's a very budget-themed notepad you've got there, Dave. It looks like, almost looks like the box.
This one here or that one there?
That one there.
Well, you know,
If you held that up, actually, up there, you would actually look like the Chancellor for a moment
like this.
in a very impressive gilet.
I've got a red gilet as well.
Yeah, I know.
This is gilet,
I think
not gillet. Okay, and it's not a body warmer.
No?
Well, it is.
Ah, right.
it's an easy mistake to make,
Yeah,
but
in Bidley.
in future, because of the trade deals, these will be much cheaper because the badge comes from Canada. The actual gilet comes from the Quayside market. It's cost a fortune.
25% tariff on the badge.
And then
The markets, Mark.
Peter.
What are they? Are they going to move much in relation to the budget? Do you think, either before, afterwards, or is it all already priced in and it's much ado about nothing?
I think, Peter, there's other things happening in the global markets
Yeah.
other than the Chancellor's first budget. You know, we saw the falls last week based on the effects of the coronavirus. Happily, yesterday we saw significant rebounds in both UK and US markets, led by the Far East. Interesting point, the Shanghai Composite Index is higher now than it was at Christmas. And all of that, the positivity of that gets missed.
Let's talk about that a bit more then. I mean, there is a link there to the budget, because if you believe what you read this morning and what you hear on the radio, there are going to be some adjustments to next week's budget to be able to free up a little bit more money to deal with this, the coronavirus. But you were right there. We were saying last week that never get caught up in the sort of the media hype of the 24-hour cycle and all that sort of nonsense. And as you just said, you've just seen gains on the FTSE.
Yeah.
Wall Street, I think, had its biggest one-day gain.
Yesterday, UK's up 2% this morning, Peter, as we're filming this, and it's the speed of movement that really could catch people out. If you were to react negatively to the news, you could make the wrong decision and miss the rebound. And I hope that none of our clients have done that. Within the funds and the portfolios who have used it as a buying opportunity, not just to pile in, but be selective, by the quality assets that are available at cheaper prices. And also the diversification message, Peter. It really has worked over the last month or so. It works all the time. But in times of stress, when you've seen the FTSE down by 10% over a period of time, and the balanced portfolio that we have for client has been affected by 4%, that's the strength of diversification and spreading assets across different groups. It's been the equity markets that have been affected, and that's the key message. We invest in more than just equity markets.
A couple of things for me, Peter. One is the benefit of diversification, I think, is apparent. It's, as a general rule, across the world, in just about every endeavour, all your eggs in one basket is risky. Yeah. It sounds adventurous and bold and all the rest of it, and the certain kind of person, such as I, quite like the idea of having a go at something and being focused. But I've learned over many years that really having a go at something on a broader front is probably better, because some things are going to fail. Some things aren't going to go as fast as others. Diversification that Mark's talked about there has had the effect that we hoped it would have. And we've talked in previous podcasts about the difficulty of getting that, the practical difficulty of getting what I'll call true diversification. Is costly. It requires a large financial advisor community behind you who believe in that message, who sell that message, if you like, to their clients. Clients are going to be persuaded that funds which are diversified will not give them, if you like, 100 out of 100 when the FTSE shoots up this morning. Our balanced fund won't go by 2%. Okay, but it didn't go down by 10% when it went down, and therefore it's got less ground to make up. To be there. The interesting factor about Shanghai, where, as you know, we were there in January.
You can move away, gents, if you choose to.
It's strange. One of the people who was with us and works for a large fund company, he came back a day later. He's going to have a day sightseeing. Yeah. And he spent another 2 weeks having the sightseeing in his house, because his company sent him home. Well, didn't allow him to go in. No. But yeah, I mean, COVID-19, by the way, coronavirus, I've read, has been around for a while. Yeah. But this strain, COVID-19, hasn't, and there is no yet cure for it.
And David, as a businessman, then, I mean, I'm interested. What's going through your head right now as running a big firm with 250 people here?
You don't want to know what's going through my head.
I realise I asked that question, taking a big risk by asking that question, but specifically in terms of coronavirus, and just we've gone a long way in a week or two, haven't we? From now, actually, it is very, very real.
I've got a great book here. This is it's called Factfulness. Hans Rosling. It's one of my favourite all-time books. You've all been subjected. There's this 13 questions that I often ask when you're doing a talk. The thing to do, people are expecting you to be put on the spot or whatever. So what I tend to do is give them all a question, as you know, a question sheet, and just about everybody gets all of the answers. Not all of them, they get 3 or 4 out of 13 on average for intelligent people. They get the facts wrong. One thing that he is saying, and here is the thing that you've got to be aware of or scared of, is a global pandemic. It's his number one thing that can knock civilization off course. And he cites things like the Spanish flu after the First World War, which was a bigger killer than the First World War. Okay, and wars kill a lot of people. A global pandemic can have that effect. It would appear from the facts that we're seeing that, I think we said this before, and none of us here are even pretending to be, in the least bit medically experienced or specialised in knowing about these things. We're only reading, and every time I touch my face now, I'm realising I shouldn't be touching my face. Not shaking hands with people, that's easy. Why would you?
Do you elbow bump now?
No, just nut them.
Oh, right.
I think it's always easier.
That's the Geordie version of an elbow
Well,
bump.
people...
David, just want to come back to the budget just before we sort of begin to wrap up. From an entrepreneur's point of view, give us an example of a couple of things in the budget that would, maybe if you were starting out again, convince you to start your own business. That's what they want to achieve with this budget, is get more people into work and more people starting businesses. What sort of things would encourage that?
I think that, number one, grants shouldn't be, I'm against people giving out public money. It goes to the wrong places. It tends to go to students or people who are just starting off their first business. And I think that those businesses factually almost always go wrong, and they're a waste of public money. But it's always good for the LEPs and people like this to go, oh, we did this and we started this, and okay. So I wouldn't like to see any stimulus in terms of giveaways. I think that to start a business, you need to put your own money in. I think that one of the major reasons why there are so many startups in Britain and the United States is the availability of finance attached to your house. English common law, Scottish common law, or whatever. You definitely own your property. So it's a safe bet for a bank to lend against. So most businesses that succeed, the person starting out business isn't in their teens, is in their 20s, they're in their 30s. They've understood what they're doing. They've got a business idea based on this is working and I can make it work better. And they borrow against their own property. So if anything goes wrong, they are hurt, not the public were. So I'm a believer in that system, and I think that works. The trick is, how do you encourage more people? How do you make it easier for them to get started? I think it goes back to, I've got to say it, free ports, enterprise zones, where you're paying less tax initially.
Yeah.
I think also it's something which encourages banks to understand what they're there for. They're not there for, I think, like stupid adverts like Ant and Dec, whatever. They should just concentrate on, giving a good value for money thing. The cost of running a business with a bank is very different from a consumer. So you've got a strange model in this country. We're not unique, but it's pretty close at where normal people don't pay for banking, whereas businesses pay a fortune. So some way that you could change the via a budget. I don't know how you do it to change that. Yeah. Also by allowing competition, by changing things so you could real competition. It's hard to be a challenger bank. You've got the same rules as somebody who's got billions, trillions of pounds sloshing around that you can try things out with. Challenger banks have not taken a hold because of the real difficulties, the barriers which are there. Rishi could do something about that. See, I haven't called him by his first name as if I know him.
Yeah.
But the Chancellor could do something about that. I think, whether it's in the budget or not, Peter. I mean, the budget for me is nonsense. I mean, let's drop income tax. Why not? Let's drop tax.
Well, it was interesting at the weekend. Former Chancellor Sajid Javid said he was looking at cutting income tax.
Well, he would be
so
now.
Exactly right.
Yeah.
The sort of politics wasn't lost on me, but it'd be interesting to see whether that turns up in Rishi's.
And you're right. I mean, putting aside money, I don't know how much money you'd put aside for this virus. I think it could be, reasonably disruptive. It doesn't look like a killer, but it's quite nasty. It's not just a cough. It is quite a nasty infection that it gives you, which isn't just a case of just sit up and take deep breaths. It kills people.
Certainly seem to be getting more concerned about it. And Jamie, from budget to budgeting, see what I did there?
I did.
That's called smooth. Tell us a bit about some of the tools. I mean, obviously, the Rishi's budget, the Chancellor's budget is about the whole country, but what can clients do in terms of their own budgeting? What sort of tools do we give them to be able to keep track of their own money?
We've got a number of tools on the website, Peter. We link with most of the major banks, where you can integrate your banking on our website. And what that does is you can start to use our tools, which allows you to budget, so you can see what you're spending your money on, whether it's holidays or food, etc., and then actually put an amount that you...
Or doormats.
Or doormats, buy a couple of them, Peter. But it allows you to sort of match it again, set a budget, and the tool works really well. If clients haven't tried it, it's worth having a look at the PFN tools on the client website. I think last year, the last 6 months, I spent most of my money in Maximo's Diner at the top of the street, and then second was Greg's. So it gives you that little bit of a...
Oh, we've gone full circle, because that takes us back to do you remember the pasty tax?
Greg's.
Yes.
Omnishambles budget in 2012.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
But that's the only time they've ever thought about taxing a sausage roll, and look what happened.
Uh-huh.
So we'll not go back there.
No.
No, I mean, it's made people put weight on. I think that, like sweetie tax and things like this, it's, I don't know.
Or tax bad news, Peter.
Oh, a bad news tax.
Bad news tax, especially,
You'd be a very wealthy man.
sensationalism.
Make a fortune.
Yeah.
I've got a little question to finish with.
Uh-huh.
Chancellors are known for when they're delivering the budget. I'm talking about maybe a few years ago now. The current lot were a little bit less exciting, but having a little alcoholic drink by the side. So, for example, Gladstone used to drink a sherry with a beaten egg inside it. Okay? And Disraeli had his brandy. Geoffrey Howe had a gin and tonic. Ken Clarke had a whiskey. If you were the Chancellor, what would be your tip?
I would have a Brewdog IPA, Peter.
A what?
A Brewdog IPA.
IPA. Here's a question for you. IPA, where did that name come from?
I want to say India, but I might be wrong.
Oh, good start. India Pale Ale. Why did it get the name India Pale Ale?
I don't know.
Does anybody know?
I do. Because I've been on 1 or 2 walks with you.
Did Mark buy the round, though?
No.
Back where we started.
It would take them the same length of time to buy a round as it would for the beer that was put into a cask in Britain and then went on a ship all the way to India. By the time it got to India, it had brewed and matured. So it's India Pale Ale. So
They've got an alcoholic drink from you.
all right, I would give them something that, I don't know, I'd give them something really strong.
Some of that whiskey from your house that tastes like cold
I
tea.
think strychnine is their tipple that I would
So
give.
you wouldn't drink it, but you just keep topping the Chancellor's glass up as he's doing it.
I've seen people do that at parties. And, you start
some
off with
water in
the
it.
best intention where you're going, I'll just, but after a while you go, oh, look at it. I just normally drink and make other people interesting. I think that's always.
Go on, Mark.
Well, Peter, it would have to be, wouldn't it? A bottle of True Potential still water,
Is that water?
just in case you made an arse of your speech.
Oh. Oh, he's just spoiled it.
Well,
You can't say that. We'll have to. You be an American, go ass.
It would have to be a bottle of True Potential still water in case you made an ass.
and just
of
if you
your
just turn it
speech.
around so that we can see the label, that's okay. Well, thank you very much. We're off for a glass of mineral water with a beaten egg in it. While we do that, thank you very much for tuning in. Make sure you click subscribe on the podcast to keep in touch with all our future podcasts. And also check out our social media channels as well, because there's lots more content on there. And as Mark was saying before, as we're seeing markets rebound and movements, then it's a great way to keep in touch with what it all means for your money. So from David, from Mark, from Jamie, and from me, it's bye for now.